Thank you all so much for coming to this first event here at Chimera Gallery. I'm Angela McQuillan, if you don't know me, and I'm really excited for Mark and Roxana to be here. So I wanted to introduce Mark Stockton first, who's going to talk a little bit about this show.
Hello. Hello. Thank you guys for all coming out. So this is a set of 100 drawings that exists as one work, so it goes all together. These subjects represent a real wide range of sort of disciplines. They're all from photographic sources. So the first image is the very first self-portrait ever taken by Robert Cornelius as you enter. And that was shot in Philadelphia in 1839. And you'll notice that all of the portraits are approximately life-size and they're all making eye contact. So it's really kind of a longer exercise in sort of the illusory quality of photo to mimic the gaze or connect to the gaze. And then I really tried to hit a broader sense of representation in terms of subjects. You know, there's a lot of my own bias in here, but there's 49 subjects who are male, 49 female, and then a few non-binary subjects as well. And then I tried to really balance out a range of influences. So it was a course of drawing that took about 3 years in time from a daily studio practice. And we can talk about some of the individual subjects afterwards, but I want to switch into just the idea of the reading. I chose to do an alternative publication in the form of a card set. I do think of this show as non-hierarchical in that the drawings can get moved around. So when the drawings are chosen for the readings, we'll bring the drawings over here. Roxana is going to be doing 3-card readings. And then the show is meant to sort of be able to be moved around. So they can, you know, come off the wall quite easily and be shifted. I was trying to think of it in a non-hierarchical way. The first time I showed them, it was at eye level, but I've always envisioned seeing them in the round. And so I built this show by hanging the circle of the room that could go all the way around first, which was the top row, and then I built the second row below it, which is a little higher than eye level. And it exactly fit 100 with 2 rows. So
You did great math.
good math. Roxana, do you want to talk about how your practice ties into or connects to the cards?
So, hi everyone, I'm Dr. Roksana Filipowska. It's a very Polish name. Please call me Roksana. I'm a 3rd-generation tarot reader. So I was born and raised in Poland. I grew up on the tarot. When I emigrated to the US, I really suppressed that aspect of myself. I'm actually trained as an art historian. I really threw myself into research, and then I returned into the tarot. So as an art historian, this project is so exciting for me to think about the history of photography, portraiture, and really thinking about how, what is that moment that an individual becomes a cultural icon? What happens to that process? As a tarot reader, I was very excited to actually use the deck. So since April, I have been working with the deck, 100 people, and one thing that I'll flag is that when Mark wanted to create a deck, right, you found out from the publisher that the default was a deck of 78 cards, and that actually reflects the popularity of tarot. And so a traditional tarot deck has 78 cards. Tarot has been in existence from about 15th century Italy. I won't get into the history of the tarot now, but just think about that you know, you're contacting a publisher and they say, well, okay, it's either 78 cards or you have to, you know, pay more for your project. It really shows that artists' tarot decks and tarot decks are very popular as a default kind of printing method for card decks. And so Mark became really interested into, okay, I'm creating a 100 card deck, but what does it mean that the default card deck is a tarot deck, and how does this relate to the tarot? So I, since April, have been doing readings for myself and also for friends and family. Today is the debut of kind of public members getting tarot readings from this deck. But we thought that it would be interesting to do a tarot reading together with this deck. So I'll do a little bit more describing as I'm doing, but we can maybe have a seat.
Sure.
And so if you'd like to gather around, so if you've never had a tarot card reading before, oftentimes there is the reader. So I'm the reader etc. But I'm actually going to hand this over to you and ask you to shuffle. So I always say there's no right or wrong way to shuffle. This process is really about, well, first of all, the sitter kind of feeling the deck as an object. So really thinking about what's the quality of the cards and the keeper. But from a kind of tarot perspective, you're also transferring some of your energy, or maybe you're imbuing the card deck with some intention. And now I'm going to ask you to split the cut the deck into 3 piles. They do not have to be even. This is not something that every tarot card reader does. This is actually something that my paternal grandmother always did. So this is a kind of a way that I'm incorporating my own lineage, and also it's a marker of a blessing for the reading. So then I combine the deck, and then I fan out the cards. And I'm going to invite you, Mark, to select 3 cards and place them face down, one on top of the other. And I already got a really great question today as to, well, how am I mapping the tarot with this deck? Because it's not a tarot deck, right? A tarot deck has those 78 cards and has very specific archetypes like the star, the high priestess, the queen of cups, etc. And so the way that I bring in the tarot here is, tarot is really about mapping relationships. So the reading that we're doing today, the specific placements of the cards have meaning. They have specific questions tied to them. And then because I've been working with this card deck for a couple of months now, I really started noticing the archetypal patterns that these figures embody. So not just thinking of them as individuals, but maybe thinking about how did they overcome struggle, or how did they engage with a challenge? What was the archetypal pattern that they embodied? So I also look at the bottom of the deck. So you, maybe Mark, I'm going to ask you to maybe read out loud just to say which cards are coming through. So there's a card at the bottom of the deck.
Yep, so this is Megan Rapina, Gertrude Stein, Harry Dodge, and Questlove.
Wow, okay, so this is really, really fun for me. I'm curious, and I'm not going to do this to everybody today, I will read for you, but you as the artist, what is it like to see, these cards out in front of you?
It's interesting where they connect. I had just been watching the World Cup, honestly. Questlove is one of the few subjects I've seen in person. We were bowling in Northern Liberties and saw him bowling once. Harry Dodge was a fairly newer subject in my attempt to include some different trans subjects. Is a writer and a sculptor, and wrote a really great autobiographical book called My Meteorite. And then Gertrude Stein, obviously the autobiography of Alcide Toklas was one of the early things that really interested me in them, as well as the salon and the overlap of a lot of artists. So, very interesting.
So these figures are, the way that they're landing is this card right here to your left, is in the position of the past. So within the tarot reading, this is maybe an invitation of what to release. You don't have to hold on to it quite so tight, or maybe just an acknowledgement of where you came from, what has contributed to this moment right now. And, it's, with Gertrude Stein, I just want to highlight that where you're also going is Questlove, which I actually see Gertrude Stein and Questlove as having some similar patterns, right? They are the honeypot that brings in these talented artists all together. They are the magnets that really combine their community. And so there's just an acknowledgement that you probably have really prided on supporting other artists. This is a confirmation. You have probably had an open door policy at your home, in your studio, in your kind of creative practice of thinking about how do I support other artists? How do I, it's really coming through. You're an artist's artist, which is a really kind of an interesting phrase within the art world, but there's just an acknowledgement that community has been a real center point of your practice leading up to this point. With Harry Dodge, something that Mark and I talked about right before this event started was that this is one of the blurriest of photographs that he worked off of. And so heritage, in addition to really resisting gender binaries, like when I look at this image and when I connect to this energy, I just feel this sense of like, it's emerging, it's not fixed. And so I would say, give yourself permission right now, if you don't know exactly what the next project is, or if you're kind of feeling like, okay, I've done this community process and I know how this works and I know I'm really supportive of this community, but I feel like I kind of have to go off on my own just a little bit and I don't quite know what the path is, I don't know what the foothold is. But I would say trust that, trust the haziness of it, the fact that it's not quite clearly in view just now, because something is really, it's emerging and it's exciting. And where you're moving into is Love, which is again actually a very similar energy to Gertrude Stein, but I would say a little bit more of a party energy, right? Questlove is an activist, but is like such a magnet. And so I would say don't shy away from potentially going off on your own for a little bit, maybe claiming a little bit more of this cocoon time in your studio, because the community aspect is absolutely what you're meant to keep doing. It is absolutely in your future. It's probably going to be even louder, even more vibrant. There's going to be a rhythm to it that pulls other people in. And the fact that you have Megan Rapinoe at the bottom of the deck, I look at this position as it's like this, what you have at arm's length, meaning that it's like, it's so close to you, you can grab it, but also maybe you want it so badly that you're like, not yet. You're kind of just putting it off at arm's length. And when I connect to Megan Rapinoe's energy, I mean, boldness, you know, the statement, the clarity of statement, the clarity of intent, right? There's such a, you know, the intent of the gesture. And it lands, right? Whether physicality or speech. And whereas in the past, maybe you have had to kind of be the host in the community, maybe kind of, maybe you've been very intentional about letting other people speak and really maybe taking a beat before speaking. Where you're heading, you will be much more confident about speaking and really speaking your intent, and of noticing that when you are very clear and direct, you actually bring more people together. So a lot of clarity, both in your communication. I would also say a very clear intent with your art making. And if in the past you have been concerned around, what if I, share a perspective, will that actually fracture the community? Where you're heading, it's actually by you saying the clear, direct thing, it brings the community together. So I see that as quite a shift here, from the kind of like you're sitting back at the salon and just letting everybody have a good time, to now, you're the DJ, you are actually setting the rhythm that everybody's dancing to, but you're very clear and intentional about what you're bringing to that group. So I'm curious how that lands for you.
No, it's very good. I really, Questlove, there's a book called Creative Quest that I listened to a lot for this, but his Summer of Soul movie, which I think is visually a phenomenal feat that came out towards the tail end of the pandemic. Very phenomenal, but I'm very interested in the idea of cross-pollination of experts, and he's really quite a master of that. So, no, but I'm very interested in stuff you're saying. I think it lands well. I feel good.
So if anybody's interested in getting a reading, I'm here for a couple of hours, but this is also, we have the deck for sale in the lobby. And so one way that you can use it as a tarot reading, like how I just kind of modeled, you can use it in a spread. So either do like a past, present, future spread, or maybe like a Celtic cross spread. You can pull these archetypes and see what comes out for you. This is also, I will say that when I first did the Getting to Know You tarot deck spread with this card deck, I learned that it really wants to support creative practice. So just pulling a card and noticing, okay, so Questlove, what does Questlove do, and what has he made, and maybe using that as a springboard for some of your creative practices as well. So this can be used many different ways.
And there's wiki links on the website, so if you go to all of them, you can click if you're not sure. So this is awesome. Well, thank Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Oh, you're in. Sorry, thank you for letting us. We got a little late start, so I